Welcome back on this Wednesday afternoon. Keith Tebow from FRCMedia. Thank you for joining us again on what looks like going to be a very beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in the Fall River area. Fall River has a new police chief. He was officially confirmed last night by the Fall River City Council, and we're pleased to have a few moments with him this afternoon. Pleased to be joined by Police Chief Jeffrey Cardoza. Police Chief, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it, and congratulations.
Thank you, Keith. It's a pleasure to be on with you guys.
Now, I know you've been on the job for a little over a month. I guess it was early May when the mayor appointed you as acting chief and went through the process of getting confirmed. And it's been quite a month for you, hasn't it? Even though you've been part of the police force for a while. Talk a little bit about your first month in general. I want to talk about some specifics, but how's the first month been for you?
Not easy. It's good that we have a good staff here, but I started my 30th year in February, and what's interesting about everything that's happened in the last month or so is that I've never gone through a pandemic. None of us have here, and we also have never gone through the type of demonstrations that have been occurring in the city and obviously around the country. So no, we didn't have a lot of experience in those areas, but we've been able to deal with the situations as they come and improve as the days go by. So we feel like we're able to handle anything that comes our way at this point. So, but the last 30 years, we never experienced that kind of stuff. So this is all new to us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you. Let me get right to the George Floyd incident and killing in Minneapolis and the city's response and what's been happening across the nation. When you first heard of the incident in Minneapolis, what was your response as a fellow officer and also as a chief?
Well, I remember I was sitting with my sons at home the first time I heard about it and saw the video, and I can tell you, I was sick to my stomach. It's what that man went through, George Floyd, is nothing short of what I believe to be a murder. And I have not met a police officer, and I've spoken to hundreds, obviously, in the last month or so, and nobody has indicated anything otherwise to me. It's not something that we train to do. It's not something that officers want to do, and nor should it be. And I certainly hope that those in the public try to understand that the majority of us, the vast majority of officers that are on the street every day, are just trying to do the right thing, and they have integrity, and they're honest and dedicated people.
Actually, that was going to be my next question. How difficult is it? We all do this. When we hear of something that we get a personal reaction to, we tend to paint someone or a group of people with a broad brush, right? And those that have been slighted by police in the past tend to paint that broad brush. How difficult is it to separate, that broad brush, which is critical in police in general, from looking at facts of individual cases where it may only include one or two officers?
So the vast majority, Keith, as you know, vast majority of interactions that occurred not only in Fall River but around the country end up, being positive. I was able to have a lot of great conversations, and we walked away from the demonstration that occurred up at Lafayette Park feeling like we made some headway, if you will. A lot of good people up there had a lot of positive thoughts about the FRPD, but also they had a lot of good suggestions that we're going to move forward on as well, as far as seeing if we can institute some of these suggestions. But I can tell you that speaking with the officers, especially the ones that work the street, it's a very difficult time, and they're frustrated because they are being painted with that broad brush, and a select few that were involved in this heinous incident have really set back agencies, not only throughout the Commonwealth, but throughout the country, as far as transparency and trust and relationship building.
So I guess the follow-up would be, what are your plans in terms of continuing what's been working here in Fall River, but also building upon some of those suggestions that you've heard from people in the past 2+ weeks since the incident happened?
So one of the things that we're doing right now as we speak, we've been doing it for the last several days, is we're looking at our use of force policy. And there's a lot of media attention, if you will, a lot of suggestions about a particular program called 8 Can't Wait. And it's 8 things that can be in a use of force policy that will is shown to reduce use of force complaints and deadly force. So we're looking at that. And I've been in a lot of discussions with Mayor Coogan. He has a lot of great ideas. He wants to get a few groups together for some dialogue. We're going to put I had a conversation with him today about putting a panel of officers together to engage in this dialogue. So there's a lot of different things going on. I really think the answer to this, one of the answers I should say, is about relationship building and listening to both sides and having some empathy. And we're all about building bridges and not tearing them down. So we're going to do everything we can to hear what the folks here in Fall River have to say and respond to it accordingly.
I know a lot has been said over the past, maybe over the past week. The phrase "defund police" has come up. When you hear that, one, what does that mean to you? And then I do want to follow up in terms of some of the nuances of how some people have used that phrase. So let me just ask you: when you hear "defund police," what reaction do you have?
So I could tell you that speaking with some of the officers around the building, they think it means get rid of the police and completely eliminate police organizations. And I'm aware that at least most of the people that are proponents of that's not exactly what they mean. It's concerning. Obviously, I'm not in support of that. I believe that we need to have organizations that not only investigate crime but also deter crime. So it's not something that I would be in support of. However, I have some suggestions certainly and some ideas that where maybe additional funding could go. I know those who are proponents of defunding the police might think, well, this is just going back into the police budget, but I look at it a little bit differently. I would like to see additional funding go into recruitment in the area of, especially in the area of Black officers. And I also would be interested in having a significant amount of more training as far as it comes to diversity and biases, implicit and explicit type bias. I think, it's an area that we need to invest in better.
I know that one of the aspects of the defund police movement has been, from the police side of things, has been that, your officers and all police officers are usually that first line of interaction when someone calls dispatch, right? Police are sent to a location, be it a domestic dispute, be it some activity that police may not be necessarily qualified to handle. And I think that's that separate discussion that I think some people are starting to have, Chief, in terms of, police officers are very well trained, but they're not very well trained in everything that they may need to encounter. Is that something that you're going to look to maybe work with the city and maybe state in terms of providing resources or connecting people to resources that can better help them when police do arrive on the scene?
Let's face it, Keith, the officers are asked to do everything, and you're right. They're not totally equipped to do that. They do a very good job based on the resources and the training that they do have, but they're not equipped to handle everything. The mayor and I have had conversations about just recently about trying to get some funding, and I would like to get recovery coaches as far as addiction issues go in the cruises. I know that other places in the Commonwealth, other police departments have had some success with that, so it's something that we're working on. And also, I'd like to see some type of social workers, if you will, involved in our calls for service that are related to, emotionally disturbed people, mental health issues. So it's something that we're discussing actively. I think there is a place, if you will, to work with other agencies closely. I can tell you that we have a domestic violence advocate that works in our building. She does a fantastic job, and like anything else, when she first came here, there was a little bit of anxiety associated with that. What does this mean for us as an agency? But once the officers see that the success and how much training and how much assistance she can provide, she's fully embraced now. So I think there's a place to bring in other organizations to step in when it's really not in our wheelhouse, so to speak.
Right. I want to get into a couple of other issues, general police issues, I guess. Some of the things that you talked about when you were introduced by Mayor Coogan. You talked about the need to uh, not necessarily improve, because I think there have been positive movements, but maybe increasing community policing. That was one thing that you mentioned during that opening press conference that you're really interested in. Share with me how what your vision is for that, and I guess how everything that the city's dealing with in the country with the George Floyd incident will impact the future of community policing.
So, Keith, let me just stop by saying that when I came on the job in 1991, we were one of the organizations, at least locally, that was starting to talk about community policing, which is very proud that the FRPD was at the forefront of that. But I had the opportunity as a young patrol officer to get involved in that, and things like doing foot patrol, and I know some officers years ago looked at foot patrol as a negative, and but the majority of us saw it as we actually were part of seeing what those relationships, getting out from behind that car door is so important, and that relationship building was an extremely important part of not only getting information, but just creating a sense of pride in the community, and pride in the police department, and then getting that support, if you will. So it's something that's very important to me. It's been important to me my whole career. It's not just a fad. It's not something I'm saying to become chief. Unfortunately, as you can imagine, COVID is like a relationship preventer, if you will. So it's not something that I've been able to institute some of the ideas that I have. For example, we normally have a group of officers or supervisors that go to neighborhood association meetings, which I've been a part of throughout my career and extremely important. I don't want just that group of officers that goes to all those meetings. I want the guy that's assigned to the route car, if you will, to get to know the people that are in that neighborhood, and and work with them. And these are the kind of things I want to bring command staff. I will be at those meetings. I want to get out in the community. It's important to get the officers out from inside that cruiser, and that barrier, if you will, of that door is just that's not where you build a relationship. So that's our plan: transparency, honesty. If we're wrong, I'm going to tell you we're wrong. I'm going to admit it, and obviously ask for forgiveness, if you will, from the community, and we'll correct our mistakes as we go along.
One final topic I want to bring up is, unfortunately, sort of the driver on a lot of initiatives that any government department wants to, and that is money. I know last night the city council debated quite vehemently and quite details the beginning discussions of a fiscal 21 budget. The council rejected for now the mayor's plans for a 1/12 budget, if you will, to start the fiscal year. How difficult is it for you with coming in with a lot of ideas, not knowing what the money's going to look like, and having to build a budget blind with all these needs out there that you've rattled off in the past 15 minutes?
Yeah. So as you can imagine, as a new chief, I'm just starting to learn how to wrap my head around the budget. But the mayor has been excellent. We've had a lot of conversations about the what ifs. We're preparing for a potential budget cut, but I just don't have the answers to that question yet as to exactly what that potential budget cut could be. I can tell you that with the resources that we do have, I'm confident that we can continue to provide excellence in policing in Fall River. I have a lot of confidence in the men and women that work for me, and I'm also proud to say that I've had a lot of officers come up to me and want to volunteer some time, especially related to the George Floyd incident. They want to participate in dialogue, and they're not looking for compensation to do that. They want to do the right thing by the community and right thing by the organization as well. They want to restore what was taken from them, the trust with the community by those officers of Minneapolis. So I feel confident that there's things we can do, even if funding becomes an issue. It doesn't cost a lot of money to get a guy to get out of his car and interact with people in the neighborhood. It doesn't cost a lot of money to park that cruiser for a half hour and go into a neighborhood association meeting, or to go into the Boys and Girls Club and spend some time with some of the people in there. Those are things that cost nothing, and those are things that I see as invaluable.
Chief Cardoza, I want to thank you. Congratulations again. Thank you for joining me. And let's do this again. We'd like to be able to be part of your dialogue as you share information with the community. So congratulations again, and thank you. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Keith.
All righty. Thanks again to Chief Jeff Cardoza for joining us today. And we wish him all the best as he begins his term as Fall River's new police chief. I'm Keith Tebow. Thank you for joining me today on FRC Media. And we will talk again very soon.